The Green Bay Packers' second preseason game versus the Indianapolis Colts was yesterday. So let's go over everything we learned from this second preseason game for the Packers. I quickly wanted to start off by saying thank you to everyone who came by the live stream yesterday, that watch party versus the Indianapolis Colts. Thank you to all the new viewers and subscribers, and of course the returning viewers as well. We'll be doing watch parties for pretty much every single regular season game. So if that sort of thing does interest you, definitely consider going down and clicking subscribe. You'll also find all your Packers news, analysis, and updates all in one spot here on this channel. All right, so preseason week 2 versus the Colts. After a joint practice with them on Thursday, heading into this game, it was not expected to see many starters, and that was exactly the case. We saw starters in preseason week 1 against the Jets, and that was just an overall abysmal performance in week 1, and we're hoping to see some sort of bounce back, better preparation, players seeming like they wanted to be there. And at first in this game, we really didn't, but it definitely did change. So to start things out, to go over everything that we learned in preseason week 2 for the Green Bay Packers, is that we had 29 total players out of this game. 12 of them were out with injury. So a lot of healthy scratches, a lot of starters that obviously would have played if a regular season game out of this game because Matt LaFleur was comfortable with the joint practice he saw and didn't feel like he needed to play starters in this preseason game. Now, the Colts felt otherwise. The Colts played starters for, it seemed like, the entire first half. So when you take a look at the entire first half of this game and try to break it down, it's a little difficult because the Packers had second and third string players across the board on offense and defense outside of, Sean Ryan starting at center, Jordan Morgan starting at left tackle. Outside of those two guys, it was pretty much all backups across the board. And even someone like Matthew Golden, who was active in this game, didn't see a single snap. So the Packers didn't have, quite literally, their top 5 wide receivers play a single snap in this game. So it's really kind of hard to analyze, okay, how well did this second team offense do against a Colts starting defense? Not well. There was really no starters on the offense, and it was Malik Willis starting at quarterback, which I was impressed with him. Marshawn Lloyd starting at running back, also impressed with him. We'll dive down into that here. And then as for the defense, a lot of backups versus a shaky Colts offense. And I liked what I saw in the first half for the most part from this defense. There's some mistakes here and there, but they started out with a quick 3-and-out for that Colts offense. Did pretty well against Danny Jones. Anthony Richardson did all right. But overall, I was happy with the fact that we had so many depth players out on this defense, like Kamal Haddon starting at cornerback number 1, and they still did pretty well, and the Packers came away with a win. Now, the win doesn't matter in preseason. I liked this game a lot more than I did last week, but there's still a lot to clean up, and overall, the Packers just need to get healthy. And when we talk about things that need to be cleaned up, it's obviously penalties. Like, this was such an ugly game when it comes to penalties for both teams. I think both teams actually had 12 or 13 penalties. I know the Packers had 12. I think the Colts actually may have had 12 or 13 as well. But the main problem was in the first half. The Packers saw 11 of their 12 penalties. I think it was for 85 total yards in that first half. 5 of which came from rookie tackle Anthony Belton. And it just seemed like every time the Packers made a big play, their second team offense made a big play, and a couple times it was with Julian Hicks, the play came back due to a penalty. Hicks had a wonderful catch on the sideline, one-handed catch, phenomenal throw by Malik Willis, and it's not on the stat sheet. It's not in the box score because it came back from a penalty. I believe it was an illegal formation or something of that sort. There was plenty of those in this game. Anthony Belton had 2 in a single drive. And what you see from Anthony Belton, who played a ton of snaps at right tackle in this game, is it seems like a redshirt year in year 1 is really likely. Like, he's not going to play any starting snaps. I think we all figured that. But if someone even goes down with injury, I feel like the Packers have other options that would be ahead of Anthony Belton at this point. It was a pretty rough outing at right tackle for Anthony Belton. 5 penalties, also allowed 5 pressures. He had that really dumb penalty of shoving a Colts defender out of bounds right in front of the referee when the play was more than dead. Those are just things you got to clean up, and it does come back to coaching, so I'm really hoping Matt LaFleur, really grilled it into Anthony Belton. Hey, we can't be doing that in a game sense, even if it's just preseason, right? You can't practice like that and then go into the regular season. and have penalties like that. It's just boneheaded penalties that completely stall drives. And we saw it some last year, but cannot have all the penalties. It was definitely a problem last year, and I'm hoping it doesn't continue into 2025. So overall, the offense for the Green Bay Packers looked better, but not great. Obviously, last week it was pretty poor. The only big play was that Amar Johnson running touchdown. This week, especially in the second half, is really when the offense started to heat up with Taylor Elgersma and even Sean Clifford on that last drive. They looked a lot better, and it makes sense. It was a second team going against a second team, or a third team going against a third team with the Colts. Whereas the first half, like I mentioned, it was the second and third team players going against the starting Colts defense. So it's kind of hard to analyze that. But Taylor Elgersma I was very impressed with. Early on, he looked very timid, kind of scared in the pocket, scared to go to his first read, but I like how he responded to that after kind of being shaken up a couple times, sacked once. Then he started to really get into the groove of things, and the Packers gave Taylor Elgersma a lot more opportunity than Sean Clifford to earn that third quarterback spot here in this game, and I'll be interested to see what they do next week with both of these quarterbacks. But Elgersma finished 7 of 11, 109 yards, a 96.4 quarterback rating, and even had a very impressive seam throw to, I think it was Ben Sims or John Fitzpatrick, one of the two, up the middle for a would-be touchdown. It was a tremendous play, but of course that was also called back by a penalty. I think that was one on Anthony Belton as well. Sean Clifford had a fun, impressive last drive to take the go-ahead lead against the Colts. Although he only finished 1 for 4, passing 11 yards, he also ran the ball 3 times for 19 yards, including that running touchdown, electric touchdown at the end to take the lead. I liked what I saw from Clifford in that drive, but right now, to me, Elgersma is quarterback 3. Now, the Packers ran the ball pretty well in this game. 40 carries, 159 yards, 4.0 average, and all of their touchdowns came from running. 3 total touchdowns from running. Israel Banikonda had a very nice drive where it seemed like he had like 7 or so carries. He finished the day 12 carries, 43 yards. Not a great average, 3.6, but it seemed like every time he got contacted, he was gaining an extra yard or 2, and he also had that touchdown. Emmanuel Wilson had 5 for 33, but also, of course, had that fumble. He's kind of the odd man out in that running back room right now. I love myself some Emmanuel Wilson, but it seems very likely that the Packers want Marshawn Lloyd as running back number 2, which is the next thing that we really learned from this game, because Lloyd got starting snaps at running back right out the gate. And I believe the first drive, Lloyd was involved in 5 or 6 total snaps, whether that was a handoff or a target or a catch, and he looked twitchy out there. There's the one Texas route that he absolutely cooked the linebacker and got wide open, and it was just a poor throw by Malik Willis. Now, some of his runs, he didn't have much to work with. There's some instant penetration into the backfield, but what I did like from him is he didn't go down at first contact. It seemed like at any time when he was running the football, he was always gaining more yards after contact, and he looks like a very solid one-cut, twitchy running back, foot in the dirt, north and south. And that's why I really liked what I saw from Marshawn Lloyd. And then his biggest play probably of his career, because he's barely played, was that 33-yard wheel route catch from Malik Willis. And of course, unfortunately, this guy can't catch a break and seemingly came up with another injury. Matt LaFleur mentioned it was hamstring tightness. Now, I'm glad it just is listed as hamstring tightness, because if it was more of an issue, I think Matt LaFleur would have just said, oh, he has a hamstring, right? He has a hamstring issue. But the fact that he just said hamstring tightness tells me that's all that it is, and I'm really hoping that is the case, because Marshawn Lloyd can't catch a break, and he just needs to remain on the field, and it's becoming like an every practice, every game thing, and it's very concerning. But you see the potential, and you see why the Packers want him in there as their running back number 2 behind Josh Jacobs. And the skill is there, the talent is there. It just comes down to staying healthy, and you just simply cannot do that right now. Now, another thing that we learned from this game, and it's just stacking on from the last game, is that Jordan Morgan just continues improving. He was very impressive in this game, just like he was in the game versus the Jets at left tackle. Morgan in this game allowed 0 pressures, 0 sacks, 0 hits, and 0 hurries in a total of 15 pass blocking snaps. Yet again, had an 88 or higher pass blocking grade. We see the past 2 games in this preseason, he's had an 88 or higher pass blocking grade, and he's been one of the higher graded offensive players through both games in 61 total snaps, 38 pass blocking snaps, and he hasn't allowed a single pressure or a single sack or has had a single penalty at left tackle. And mind you, this is against starters for the Jets and Colts. Both teams started out with starters at defensive end. You can see reps of Jordan Morgan going against Liatu Latu, JT Tumulao, Adabawore, and he's holding his own. He's got a strong base. He's got really good footwork, and all he does is continue to improve at left tackle. And going into this season, I was fully expecting Rasheed Walker to remain at starting left tackle for the most of 2025 unless an injury happens, but it keeps getting easier and easier for you to think, hey, Jordan Morgan can take his job. And I still believe Rasheed Walker will start out at left tackle to start week 1, bearing any weird setbacks on an injury, but it's going to be a very, very short leash. One thing is very clear. The Packers want to have Jordan Morgan at starting left tackle sooner rather than later. They really want him in that position. They just want to make sure that he's ready, and that's why they're giving him plenty of opportunity in these preseason games and also in training camp, getting left tackle reps with the starting offense. And I think he's held his own masterfully. I think he's really stepped up to the plate at left tackle, and I think he will become the starting left tackle for the Green Bay Packers at some point in 2025. I've been extremely impressed with Jordan Morgan, a lot more impressed than I ever was with him at guard. And it's clear that this is why the Packers always saw him as a left tackle at the NFL level. A group of players that I was very impressed with in this game are both second-year players, and that's linebacker Tyron Hopper and Katan Oladapo, both of which finished top 3 in defensive PFF grade in this game. And outside of PFF grade, when I was watching this game, I saw Tyron Hopper flying around. It seemed like every time he was on the field, he was involved in the play. Right? If it was a run left or a pass right, no matter what, he was around the ball when the whistle was blown and in on making the tackle or just around the general area. He was flying around the field. And one thing that seems very apparent in Tyron Hopper's game is his sideline to sideline speed. And it seems like he's really growing on year 1, kind of that red shirt season, very minimal defensive snaps. And then here in year 2, getting a lot more opportunity. And I think he will see, an uptick in defensive snaps for 2025, considering the Packers let go of Eric Wilson. And I think they believe, hey, Tyron Hopper can replace those special team snaps and we can put him in on defense if we need to. And as for Katan Oladapo, kind of a similar situation as Tyron Hopper, a redshirt season back in 2024. I don't think he saw too many defensive snaps, mainly a special teamer. Now in this training camp, more recently, Zane Anderson went down with injury, so did Xavier McKinney. So Katan Oladapo is essentially plugged in as a starter at safety in a lot of practices and was a starter in this preseason game. And I thought he had a wonderful day. He had a really nice pass breakup on Tyler Warren across the right side early on in this game. I think it was the second drive or the first drive of the Colts, showcasing his coverage ability. The Packers have been moving him around a ton from safety to nickel to box safety. And I really like the versatility of Katan Oladapo. If you guys have been a part of this channel, you know I was very, very high on him even before the Packers brought him in as that 5th round draft selection. And I think he can take over as that depth safety core special teamer from Zane Anderson. And if Zane Anderson remains injured, we could totally see him starting the year on the PUP or just simply going to the IR or being waived with an injury designation if the Packers feel very comfortable with Katan Oladapo. So it seems like both of these players who seemingly had a redshirt season in 2024 are taking the next step here in 2025 to be a contributor, not only on special teams, but maybe as a depth player on this defense. Now, another linebacker and a key takeaway from this game was Isaiah Simmons. And we saw a poor performance from Simmons last week versus the Jets. I posted a clip of a terrible coverage rep. I'm not going to get into it because that's in the Jets game. But we're looking to see how he would bounce back here in week 2 because he's been getting plenty of opportunity, even with seeing starting reps over Isaiah McDuffie last week or 2 weeks ago at that linebacker number 3 spot. Then after the Jets game, kind of got brought back down to linebacker number 4 or 5, and Isaiah McDuffie thrown back in, and McDuffie was a healthy scratch today, signaling that, hey, he's linebacker number 3. That's not changing for the foreseeable future. Now it's kind of coming down to, after 2 preseason games, is Isaiah Simmons going to even make the roster? Because it was another rough performance in this game from Simmons. He was actually the lowest graded player on defense with a 28.6 grade. And not only that, he just still continues to look very, very lost in coverage, like very, very lost in coverage. And the fact that he saw 49 total snaps, which is actually the most on the entire defense in this game, in a preseason game, and that's not a good thing. It really shows you that the Packers are unsure of what they have in Isaiah Simmons. They're unsure of if this guy can make the roster, and they want to get as much play time, as much tape out there so they can rewatch it, look at it again, and go, is he worth holding a roster spot on this 53-man roster? And as of right now, unless you think he's a tremendous special teamer, which is really all he's going to amount to at this rate, he might not even be worth the roster spot on the 53 over someone like Christian Welch, who is a great special teamer and has played better on defense in both games. You know, I'm all for the hype of Isaiah Simmons and the potential, and maybe we get another Devondre Campbell or Rasul Douglas. It just doesn't look like that right now. It simply just looks like another Jalen Smith signing where, okay, you had the potential of the guy, and maybe he can revitalize his career, and it just never amounted to anything. That's kind of how it's feeling right now for Isaiah Simmons, and it's unfortunate. I really wish it would work, but through 2 preseason games right now, I don't know if I have him on my 53-man roster. I think I might have Christian Welch on it over him, or just 4 linebackers in favor of 6 defensive linemen. And then you keep Colby Wooden and Nazir Stackhouse on the roster. That's also an opportunity there, but we know how the Packers value special team players. So right now it's like, hey, if Isaiah Simmons is an all-star on special teams, yeah, he can make the roster. But I don't think he's making it because of defense. And I don't think he's going to see any defensive snaps if he is on the roster. I think Tyron Hopper would be over him at this rate. Now, on the flip side, a defender that I was very, very impressed with, and I've just been so impressed with him throughout training camp, is obviously Bo Melton. Bo Melton had the highest coverage grade for all defenders in this game at boundary cornerback. And he allowed only 2 receptions on 4 targets for 17 yards, so a 50% completion rate. He had a pass breakup. He also had 3 tackles, and he only allowed a quarterback rating of 61.5. Obviously, that pass breakup being a very impressive play early on in this game. It was an RPO, Richardson trying to find Ashton Doolin on that quick slant, and Bo Melton did an excellent job breaking on that slant, getting his hand in there, and breaking that pass up. He's not afraid of contact, for sure. Bo Melton's flying into the backfield to try to take out a swing running back, and anytime the ball's near him, he's going to go try to be in on that tackle. And that's what I've loved, the heart, the dedication from Bo Melton. It's, yeah, he has a lot to learn still at cornerback. I fully believe that, but right now he is cornerback number 4, because when you look at the other options, although Mike Robinson, I think, had a nice game as well. So did like what I saw from the 7th round rookie there. But a guy like Kamal Haddon, who had a lot of hype entering this training camp from Keyshawn Nixon, more so saying, hey, Kamal Haddon could take that big jump there. He had a very rough game. And I'll say this, you know, when you're watching a game and a cornerback, you know, you keep seeing receivers catch a pass on this said cornerback, and you're like, wow, he's getting toasted out there. A lot of the times he was in cover 3, and the receiver's running a quick hitch or a comeback, like that's going to get open against cover 3 90% of the time. So I'm not going to be crazy hard on Kamal Haddon, but he was picked on in this game, and I thought it was not a wonderful outing by him. But on the flip side, I thought Bo Melton did have a good game. So for me right now, Bo Melton is cornerback number 4. Now, I'm not including Javon Bullard in that list, but more so, you know, kind of our boundary guys, right? You have Nixon, Hobbs, Valentine. Those are the top 3. No questions there. What's your 4th guy? That's kind of been the question of this cornerback room. Who's going to be that 4th guy at boundary? Is it going to be Haddon, Micah Robinson, Bo Melton, or maybe someone like Tyron Herringer made some nice plays in this game? But right now, I think it definitely is Bo Melton. And I said it last week, and I'm going to say it again. Like, Bo Melton is making this roster. I also thought it was a really nice day by this front 7, this defensive line, and I was glad to see this because we heard in that joint practice that the Packers front 7, that defensive line, was tearing apart the Colts O-line. Now, I really wish we ended up with more sacks in this game. We actually only had 1 sack, and it was Deslin Alexander later in the game, but we had plenty of pressure. right? Warren Brinson ended the day with 4 pressures. I really liked what I saw from Brinson in this game. Keith Randolph ended up with 4 pressures. Desmond Alexander, 4 pressures and a sack. Even Nazir Stackhouse had 3 pressures. Also a pass breakup. Batted the ball down at the line of scrimmage. Nazir Stackhouse and Warren Brinson, 2 Georgia Bulldog rookie defensive linemen, have been super impressive, and I think both of them make the roster. Aaron Mosby had 3 pressures. Carl Brooks, 2 pressures. Christian Welch had 2 pressures. They ran a lot of A-gap pressure out of that linebacker spot. Jamon Johnson, Omar Brown, Jared Bartlett, Colby Wooden, James Esther, and J.J. Nigbari all 1 pressure each, totaling 28 pressures in this game. So although we only had 1 sack, we still pressured the quarterback 28 times, which is super impressive. Now, to wrap things up, going over the last thing that we learned in this game, going over the injuries that we left with this game, we already talked about Marshawn Lloyd, and Matt LaFleur mentioned hamstring tightness. We'll see what happens this week. I'm not going to hold my breath, but I really hope it's nothing significant, and Lloyd can return to practice and play in this final preseason game and finally get over this injury curse or whatever it may be. 2 more players that I have listed that left with injuries, and there may be more. We'll learn when Matt LaFleur has his first press conference before a practice this week. But Barron Sorrell got rolled up on a kick return, or a kick coverage, should I say, and it was listed as a knee injury. So that's definitely concerning. I'm hoping it's not anything torn and it's just something minor, maybe PCL or MCL sprain grade 1, something of that sort would be great, because I've really liked what I've seen from Barron Sorrell this training camp, this preseason, and the fact that Colin Oliver has yet to see any play time. You know, we're really banking on Barron Sorrell being one of those depth rotational guys with Brenton Cox and J.J. Nigbari, so I'm really hoping it's nothing severe there. And then the final one was Omar Brown, which is a pretty scary injury. He was carted to the locker room with an oxygen mask, and it was listed as a chest contusion, and he actually stayed in Indianapolis overnight, and LaFleur called it, quote, a scary deal of an injury. And Omar Brown was a guy fighting for a roster spot, making tons of plays in training camp, I think totaling 5 or 6 interceptions. But now with Zane Anderson out, now potentially Omar Brown for the rest of the preseason, I don't see him returning with an injury like that, likely just an IR player or a injury designation. That furthermore just showcases that, hey, Katana Ladapo has a very, very good chance to make this roster. So those are all the notes I have from preseason week 2, Packers versus Colts. I'm sure there's a lot more we could go over in this game, but it's, again, a lot of it, like the whole entire first half is hard to analyze with third stringers going against starters against the Colts. But overall, I liked the rebound by this Packers football team in the second half. Really liked seeing that they brought it back together. They stopped committing dumb penalties and they went out and won the game, even though the last play was insane and that was probably a catch, but who knows? It's a preseason game. Who cares? But overall, it didn't really matter at the final scores. It's more so I like seeing the Packers rebound in that second half and play a lot more clean and better football to finish out this game. They have a joint practice this week with the Seattle Seahawks, so really going to be looking forward to that. Don't expect Jordan Love to practice in full in that or play at all in this final preseason game, but expect him to be back in limited fashion this week. I do think he will be, and of course all the other injuries. I'm really hoping this wide receiver room can start to get healthy and we get some updates on Marshawn Lloyd and Barron Sorrell. But I really appreciate you guys coming by to the video. If you could leave a like down below, it supports the channel a ton. But I'll catch you on the next one, and as always, go Pack Go.